Welcome to the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rosensweet, mom of 3 young people, peaceful parenting coach, and your cheerleader and guide on all things parenting. Each week, we'll cover the tools, strategies, and support you need to end the yelling and power struggles and encourage your kids to listen and cooperate so that you can enjoy your family time. I'm happy to say we have a great relationship with our 3 kids. The teen years have been easy and joyful, not because we're special unicorns, but because my kids were raised with peaceful parenting. I've also helped so many parents just like you stop struggling and enjoy their kids again. I'm excited to be here with you today and bring you the insight and information you need to make your parenting journey a little more peaceful. Let's dive into this week's conversation. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. It is almost time for Christmas for those of you who do celebrate Christmas, and I want to acknowledge that I am going to be talking about that man in the red suit. So if you are listening with your kids nearby, you might want to take that into consideration. We are going to be talking today about when kids want more stuff, how parents worry about that their kids are greedy because of all the stuff that they want. And I'm going to be talking about that in general and the peaceful parenting perspective on that, and also about our family and how we raised our kids with a people, not stuff idea. We are going to do what's become an annual event and revisit an interview that I did with my kids 3 years ago, just about their thoughts on being little and wanting lots of stuff to where they are now, or at the time, I think they were 14, 17, and 20 when I interviewed them. They are now 17, 20, and 23. And I have to say, it's always a struggle to think of what to get them for Christmas because they really are not very materialistic kids. They don't care about, well, my daughter a little bit. She likes to have nice sneakers, but she only has one nice pair at a time. But I'd say she's still in the younger ages. But in general, I think they're pretty not materialistic kids compared to the average. And I think that partly had to do with how we raised them, with the idea of people, not stuff. We'll talk about that more in a minute. And I also just want to acknowledge off the bat that this conversation, you can really only have this conversation about worrying that your kids have too much stuff if you have financial privilege. So I really wanted to acknowledge that this is coming from a place of financial privilege, and some people listening might not have that. And I just want to acknowledge that. And some people listening are going to share that financial privilege. We didn't have a lot of money when my kids were growing up. We were pretty broke. My husband was a full-time student for 5 years and then starting a new career, and I was a stay-at-home mom. So some of the stuff that we did was by necessity. We didn't have money to buy them a lot of stuff. In some ways, we had borrowed financial privilege because we have parents who we knew could help us if we ever got into dire straits. And we also the kids have 5 sets of grandparents. Hello, divorce and remarriage. They had 5 sets of grandparents, so they did get nice gifts for Christmas and birthdays. However, we didn't really have much money to buy them much, and we had to say no a lot to stuff they wanted. And I think, looking back, I think I would do the same thing again in terms of not buying a lot of stuff and having them save for things that they really wanted and just getting things for Christmas and birthdays. So I think it actually worked out really well. But just getting back to the idea of that coming from a place of financial privilege, if that's you, I just want to make 2 suggestions. One of them I'm sure you hear a lot, which is donate, but I just want to also encourage you to donate either to organizations so they can buy gifts for kids, or buying new presents and dropping them off at places where they can distribute the presents for kids. And I think that's something that we can all do if we do have some financial privilege. And then the other piece of it, I think, is don't get big presents from Santa. If you do have financial privilege, you have the Santa presents be something small, because there are kids who are not going to get big presents from Santa, and we don't want any kids learning that some kids get small things from Santa and some kids get big things from Santa because they have more financial privilege. So those are just 2 small things that I think we can do if we do have that. I want to shift next into just talking about the fears that I hear from parents around kids wanting stuff. really okay to want stuff. I'm just going to say that again. If your child wants a lot of things, that is perfectly normal. They can want a lot of things. We can welcome their feelings about it, just like we do with all other things in peaceful parenting, that they can want all of the things and not get all of the things. And it's okay to be upset about that. One thing that I think a lot of parents are worried about is that their children don't have perspective. So I hear parents all the time say things to me like, well, this kid has so much privilege and they're so lucky. They have everything they need and more. And they just don't understand that other kids don't have that and they don't appreciate what they have. Listen, it's not normal for kids to have a great understanding about how their lives are better than other people's. I mean, yes, within reason, we do want to read books and educate them, but in a very age appropriate way. And a lot of times kids aren't really ready to understand that until they're older. If you had a child who came from a really poor background and didn't have enough even to meet their daily needs, and you drop them into your environment, of course they would be appreciative, that kid would be, because they would know the difference. But most of our children don't know the difference, and therefore they don't appreciate what they have yet. This is something that comes with maturity. So really don't worry if you don't think that your child has perspective and they're younger. And I'd say getting up into the double digits of age, that's when kids really can start to understand how privileged they are or how, fortunate they are that they have such a good life. But when they're younger, when they're still in the single digits, I think it's hard for them. It's inappropriate for them to understand that, as we'd be putting too much weight of the world on them. So that's number one thing I want to say. Don't worry when your kids always want more. That's normal. It doesn't mean you have to give them more. He can have a reasonable amount of stuff that they have, and we can welcome their feelings about wanting more. And we can even rejoice with them about, if you could buy anything in the Lego catalog, you would get this and you would get that or whatever. Oh, those are so nice. Those are so exciting. We don't have to try to shut them down. Doesn't mean we're going to get it for them, but we don't have to try to shut them down. So don't feel like you need to be in lesson mode all the time, right? I even have a whole episode on it doesn't have to be a teachable moment. And I think this is one of those times where that phrase applies. It doesn't have to be a teachable moment, that your child is dreaming of everything they want Santa to bring them for Christmas. And at the same time, I also know that there are things that we can do to help our children not be quite so oriented towards material possessions. One thing that you can do is to try to stem the flow of gifts. And of course, we want to be gracious if we're getting gifts more than we've asked for from grandparents or neighbors or whatever. We still want to model graciousness some of these people who show their love with presents, and we want to remember the spirit in which the gift is given. And that will help your child develop the good morals that you're looking for and good character, right? Is if we're gracious, even if it's more than we want. But going back to my original thought, trying to stem the flow of gifts, try to encourage grandparents to give experiences. I think that's a really fun thing, like museum outings or show tickets or something. My brother-in-law, before he had kids, he used to give our kids his name's Ezra, and we often call him Ez, and he would give them the Easy Pass, right? The EZ Pass, where he would take the kids and they would do a sleepover and movie night. And they loved that. So he didn't buy them any presents, but he gave them every year the gift of this experience of the Easy Pass, where they did whatever they wanted with him for the day. But I think that's really wonderful to do stuff like that. So try to encourage grandparents. You can give a list of choices of things that they might like to do with the child, or giving the child an experience for them to do with a friend or with the family. Another thing that I want to encourage us to do is to help kids give presents. My kids would make each other presents for Christmas or birthdays. If you're not crafty or your kid's not interested, if they have a small amount of their own money that they could buy something for a sibling or make some presents or give presents to teachers or neighbors or grandparents. It doesn't have to be anything major, something that they've made or even pictures that they've drawn, but really helping them at this time of year to also be part of that giving spirit. And I think we also can involve them. I mentioned before about the donation Maybe they can help pick out some toys to donate to your local shelter or at your church, or you could even adopt a family to get presents for. I've heard of people doing that. So really remember that even though we're not going to worry too much about how much they want all the getting, we can help them with the giving as well. That's something that can really help. I think my kids talk about this in the interviews that you're going to hear shortly. But one thing we talked about with our kids when they were little was that people, not stuff, right? We'd say, what's important? And they'd say people, not stuff. And I think they really did take that to heart. And another thing that I think that we can do as parents to reduce the materialism and our children really focusing on stuff is to watch ourselves. Like, how much are we buying things that we don't need? Do we use things until we can't use them anymore? What's our mindset around getting stuff and buying stuff? So if you don't want your kids to be materialistic and, quote, greedy and care more about stuff than people, they're going to learn that from you. And that's another reason I think why we shouldn't worry, because our kids do internalize our values as they get older. And if you're listening to this, you probably do have the values of not wanting your kids to be that focused on stuff. And so they will learn that as they get older. And when they're little, as I said before, it's really fine. It's really normal for them to want a lot of stuff. And it's okay. And we can just enjoy that wanting with them. We don't have to get them everything they want. And a side note, if your child does get upset when they open their gifts at Christmas or birthdays or whenever it is, and they have a meltdown, it wasn't the one that they wanted, remember that often that's them backpack emptying, right? You've heard me talk a lot about the emotional backpack on this show. And sometimes at Christmas morning, there's been a big buildup of the whole season and all of the expectations. And sometimes it's not really about the thing at all. It's just about all of those feelings need somewhere to go. So all is not lost. If you have a child who seems like they just want a lot of stuff and they get mad if it's not what they wanted, just remember they are doing the best they can. They want to be good. They will absorb and learn your values. And if your values are on, as what we used to say in my family, people, not stuff, that's what's going to happen with your kids as they get older. So let's listen to Maxine and Lee and Asa and their views on being raised with peaceful parenting and that people, not stuff, and how it was for them when they were little and how it is for them now. Hi, Maxine.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Nice.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Maxine, and I am your child.
How old are you? I know how old you are, but other people don't.
I'm 14.
All right. So do you remember when you were little, what was the best thing about birthdays, Christmas, holidays?
Oh, presents, I guess.
I think
I probably shouldn't say that because I know that's like what the thing podcasting is about.
No, it's okay. Like that's what I'm trying to normalize the fact that for little kids, it's all about presents, right?
Yeah.
So do you think you're still in that phase at 14 that it's mostly about the presents?
Well, not really. I like spending time with you guys because especially since Lee moved out.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking forward to having your brother come home at Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
What else is meaningful to you about the Christmas holiday?
Well, literally, you and Dad don't have to work that much when it's Christmas. And so we get to spend the whole day together. And we always have a nice breakfast. And sometimes I get to help you with that and stuff like that.
One of my favorite things the past couple of years that we've been doing is the family walk on Christmas.
Yeah. It's fun. And we always take Emmy, and she's always so happy to be with all of us.
Yeah, because she never gets all 5 of us to take her for a walk at once.
Emmy's our dog, by the way, if you don't know that.
So do you still like the presents?
Yeah, I still like presents, but who doesn't like presents? Even you and Dad like presents.
That's true. But the time with family is you're starting to appreciate that more as you're getting older. Do you ever remember getting a present you didn't like when you were a kid?
No, but I remember being disappointed that I didn't get presents that I wanted.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
When I thought that Santa was real and I would make lists and I wouldn't get all of the stuff, I would be kind of sad. But
yeah. And how do you think that affected you as a person?
I don't think it really mattered. I think I just, I was just a little kid. I wanted to have all the presents that I wanted.
Yeah. Do you think that's pretty normal?
Yeah.
Do you think parents should worry about that?
No, I think you shouldn't worry, but like, I think it's like weird if your kids aren't excited about presents and don't want lots and lots of presents.
Yeah.
Because
So,
that's like a normal thing for kids to want.
and so what do you think happens as you get older and now you're like, yeah, I still like presents, but that's not the most important thing?
I think when you're little, you don't understand what the holidays and like what that's all about. But like when you get older, you realize that it's like more about just being able to like spend time with people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like it's nice to like give people presents instead of just like always getting presents.
What have been your favorite presents that you've given?
I don't know, like when I give brothers like records or stuff like that, and it just seems to make them like happy, then it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember making presents?
Yeah, I made presents like this year or last year. I made those little like tree decorations for brothers and you and dad and all the grandparents and stuff.
That's right. Those were nice.
Those little candy cane things.
Yeah, those were sweet.
Also, I like Christmas because it's all like nice, like and cozy, and just like on like Christmas or like just any holidays that we do as a family, but especially Christmas, like when we're just like all sitting around and like listening to music and it's all cozy in our house and stuff. And then we can like look outside and stuff like that.
I love that too. I love decorating the tree and then sitting and looking at it afterwards, having hot chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that was a tradition that I did growing up too.
Cool. Also, sometimes on like Christmas or like, yeah, mostly Christmas or New Year's, when like our grandparents call to just like say like Happy New Year's or Merry Christmas.
That's
and
nice.
You get to like talk to them, and usually I call your mom I always show her all my presents and stuff.
You know, Nana listens to the podcast. Do you want to say hi to her?
Hi, Nana.
One of the other things that parents were worried about and why I'm making this podcast is that sometimes little kids seem really ungrateful. Like they get like a whole giant pile of presents and then they're like, I wanted the blah, 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 or I didn't get that, or why did he get more? What do you think those parents need to hear when they have little kids? What do they need to hear from an older kid?
Like I said before, like when I would not get presents that I wanted, but I would still get other presents, I would like be sad or like unhappy about it that I didn't get the other presents that I wanted. But like after, I would realize like how fun the presents that I actually got were. And like honestly, if you have like a 4-year-old and they're upset about not getting something, then they're literally 4, so you can't really like think that they're ungrateful because they don't even know what that word means. They probably don't even know how to say that word. So
True
you
enough.
can't really worried about their being ungrateful because they don't even know what that is.
Right. And they don't have anything to compare it to, right?
Yeah, because they're literally 4.
So if parents are really worried about that, they think their kids think that like toys are the most important thing, what would you say to that, to those parents?
Well, kids are just kids. Kids, like I'm still a kid, but I know that presents aren't like the only thing that's like good about like holidays and stuff, but I'm still like learning. And if your kid is like younger than me, then chances are they'll like know even more less about that.
Right.
So, like honestly, like kids are just kids and they just think that presents are so cool and exciting that they don't know that like there's more to it than like presents.
Right. Do you think there's anything that parents like could or should do to like teach their kids that their things are more important than presents?
Well, you could like do like tradition, like what we do, like where you go on like a walk or what you do decorating your tree as like a family or something, or like doing something like you celebrate Hanukkah, like doing like little traditions for that and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like when they're older, they'll see like, oh, when we did all those things, those were like nice traditions that my parents did. And
could you think of any other traditions that were important to you?
When we decorate cookies.
I was thinking about that too. That's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to doing that this year.
And I already promised one of my teachers, Miss Miller, that I was going to give her cookies. So we have to do it.
We absolutely will.
Because she loves sugar. So we have
She
to
loves sugar.
She does.
Yeah, I think you've always liked giving presents too. Is there anything else that you think parents should know about if they're worried about their kids thinking that, stuff is more important than people?
Honestly, just what I said before. Kids are just kids and they don't know anything other than presents. So like, don't think it's a big deal because eventually they'll realize more things about holidays like I did. But if your kid's like 6 and they're like so excited about the presents and that's all they can talk about, then honestly, that's like a normal kid behavior.
Right. And not worry about it.
Well, not like normal, but like that's like a lot of kids are like that.
Yeah. And I think it's, if we can be excited for them too, right?
Yeah. Well, if you can like show them that it's so great that they're excited about it, and you can be like, I'm excited too.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll see that it's not something bad. But if you like tell them like, no, you shouldn't be this excited about presents, that's not allowed.
That's right. Hey, do you remember, this is one thing I forgot to ask your brothers about, but do you remember times when you've gotten an experience instead of like a thing that you can hold in your hands for a present?
People have just like given me like a ticket to like go do something with me or something.
Yeah.
Just for fun.
I think Mimi took you to a show once.
Yeah.
And hasn't Uncle Les used to do like sleepovers and movie night?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think kids like that?
Yeah. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a normal kid.
What, you're not a normal kid?
No.
Why aren't you a normal kid?
Because I'm not. I don't know how to explain it.
I think you're a pretty normal kid.
No, I'm extraordinary.
You're also hilarious. Thanks, darling.
You're welcome.
Love you.
You look funny with those big headphones on your head.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. Love you, kid.
Oh, I love you.
Hello? Okay. Let's get started. Can you introduce yourself?
My name's Asa. I'm your son. I'm 17.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
So when you were little, you and your brother, your older brother Lee, used to like spend hours looking at the Lego catalog and like circling all the things that you wanted.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then I remember one year, and also Dad used to really worry about that. He used to worry that you guys were like, your values were out of place and you were going to be like just like super greedy kids and not care about the right things. And
he was right.
He was right.
Yeah.
Are you super greedy?
No.
No. Now I remember one year when I think you were around 11, and I said the grandparents are starting to ask like what you want for Christmas because they wanted to get you something. And you stopped and you thought and you said, Mom, I think I have a pretty good life. I can't think of anything I want. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go from like the 5-year-old who was like wanted everything in the Lego catalog?
I think, I don't know. I kind of just grew out of it, I guess is the best way to say it. I don't know. My brain chemistry changed.
So do you think that's typical of 17-year-olds that do you feel like you want, like most kids your age don't want that much stuff?
Yeah. The thing is, I don't really play with toys anymore. So when I was little, like you can never have too many toys. You just get more and more and more and they're all good. But like now thinking about it, the only thing that like I'm missing in my daily life is a backpack big enough to put all my stuff in it. So that's like the only thing I want, like when I think about it, what would make my life better right now? The only thing I can think of is a bigger backpack.
Bigger backpack. Okay.
Bigger backpack.
Yeah. I think Santa has gotten wind of that. So you don't have too long to wait for the bigger backpack. Well, actually, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like you're sort of unusual for kids your age in terms of like not being into like brand name stuff. Do you think that's true, or are most of your friends?
Yeah, no, I would say that's true.
So why do you think that is?
As you get older, you value different things. Just your values change. Don't really care so much about just accumulating plastic tchotchkes and kind of more focused on just having a good time.
Well, I know you don't want like little, toys from the dollar store or Lego kits anymore, but why don't you want like the brand name sneakers? And like you haven't even gotten any sneakers in like 2 years or something, right?
Mm-hmm. I've evolved past that.
But what is it? Okay. What I'm trying to say is I think you're unusual. Like I think you're unusual for somebody 17 who's in grade 12, who's not like, oh, I need these sneakers and that expensive thing and the latest iPhone. I want to hear about anything that you think would be helpful for parents who are wanting to make sure that their kids don't grow up to be greedy and materialistic.
They won't. Or maybe they will, but it doesn't really some people are like that and some people aren't. Everybody, when they're little, wants Lego and wants to look in the Lego catalog. Like whatever you do then is not going to shape. Maybe your kid will grow up and be greedy, but you telling them that they shouldn't look at the Lego catalog isn't going to change that. It's not guaranteed that everybody's going to grow out of that, but whatever you try and do is not going to change that. It's already kind of preset. Like let the kids do whatever they want, and then maybe they'll be greedy, maybe they won't, but it won't really have any effect on it.
Right. So you're saying that it's other things, not what they want when they're little. It's other things that decide how they turn out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty normal for little kids to just want lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, one thing I talk about, it's like hardwired evolutionarily for them to want stuff. Because if they were just like quiet and meek in a corner, then everyone would forget about them.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you started to feel sort of grateful for your life that you have?
I am grateful now, and I probably wasn't when I was 3. So somewhere along the line,
between
maybe
3 and 17,
maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. It's just sort of a gradual thing.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to pinpoint that. You said that parents, whether they tell their kids to not want so much stuff or not, it's not going to make a difference. But do you think that it's that you sort of like internalized what was important in our family, and that because Dad and I aren't like really into like brand names and buying stuff, that was sort of how you developed too?
Yeah, I would say I cared about this stuff most when I was in like grade 6 and 7. And I felt really weird telling you guys like I wanted shirts with company logos on them and stuff. I don't know. It just felt out of place in our family. Yeah.
Why do you think it was grade 6 and 7? That was the time when you wanted the most like brand name stuff?
Because brain development wise, that's when you want to fit in the most.
That makes sense. And at a certain point, you just, I don't know. One of the things that I admire about you is that you don't care what other people think in a good way. Like you have your own idea of what you like and what's cool. But when you were little, what was the most important or meaningful thing about Christmas or birthdays?
I guess the anticipation of all the presents and celebration and whatnot. Like when you actually get there, it's like whatever, but it gives you something to look forward to leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the most important thing.
The excitement of the possibilities of what you might get and do.
Yeah.
What about now? Has anything changed?
Well, I used to have birthday parties when I was a little kid. I don't really do that anymore. So birthdays definitely don't feel as significant. Christmas, kind of same mold, but again, I'm not so much into like which Lego am I going to get this year. So I don't know. I guess I value just the food and the family and everything else about Christmas more than the presents.
Nice. Well, thanks, Ace. Was there anything that you think parents should know about this topic of, worry about too much stuff and too much importance on stuff?
Make sure your kids are staying somewhat grounded to reality, but just relax too, because they're little kids. And yeah.
Thanks, Ace. Bye.
No problem. Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
Hello.
Hi, Lee. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lee, your oldest son.
How old are you now?
20.
20
and a half.
20 and a half. Yeah, we missed your half birthday this year. And for anyone who's listening who doesn't celebrate Christmas, I think this applies to birthdays or, any other holidays where kids get presents. But looking back on your childhood, do you remember like really wanting to get presents and loving to get presents when you were little?
Yeah, definitely. Next question.
Dude, I asked your brother this, if he remembered like looking at the Lego catalog and the two of you poring over the Lego catalog and circling everything you wanted. I also
remember, yeah. I think you and Dad tried to like moderate that, or like, I remember you talking to us about consumerism. I don't know. I think I understood that stuff, but I think I still just wanted presents. I think that's kind of how it is for most kids.
For sure. It really stressed Dad out. He was worried about all of the wanting, like a lot of the parents, I think, that, wrote with concerns about this thing. But, you are a person now at 20 who I would say is pretty non-materialistic. But when did you become aware of, consumerism and materialism?
I think I was maybe as long as I can remember. I don't know. Like, I think definitely you taught me early, but also I think didn't sink in maybe till I was a young teenager. When was the first time that I was like, oh, you don't need to get me any presents? Which,
I don't
by
know.
the way, you always do still, but like, I'm pretty sure I always tell you that you don't need to now.
Yeah, I mean, we get presents because we want to get you presents, not because we feel like we have to.
But like when I was a kid, I wasn't like, oh, you don't have to get me any presents.
No, I mean,
I wanted presents
for sure.
much.
For sure. Do you ever remember?
I think it was enough times. Like, do you talk to your parents about the post-holiday letdown?
We haven't talked about that yet.
Experiencing that enough made me feel like, okay, maybe that's presents are not the name of the game.
Say more about the post-holiday letdown.
Somewhere around 3 p.m. on Christmas, you'd be like, well, that was that. Back to my comfortable life, I guess, but normal. And like you'd stop feeling exciting and you'd feel like, was I really that excited? Because like then like once the suspense is gone, obviously, who said that the anticipation is always better than the actual thing? Some philosopher said that, I think.
That's so funny because that's what your brother said when I said, what do you remember the most about being a kid and holidays and birthdays? And he said the anticipation.
Yeah, for sure.
So what would you say to parents who are worried about that their kids always want stuff and like more stuff? And even like, some kids, I think that post-holiday letdown looks like, crying about not having more presents at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say it's okay. The kids are victims of the mass media. But you're probably already doing your best to counteract that and just have faith. You probably will if you generally are raising it. I don't know, like conscientious kid, they'll eventually probably come around. Like how many adults do you know? This is what I'd say. How many adults do you know who are obsessed with presents?
Well, but
some people are very materialistic, but like generally people grow out of it, I think.
Well, there are tons of people though who get, the new iPhone with every update or, not to like crush those people who like a new iPhone, but there are a lot of people who there are a lot of people who want the newest, fanciest thing and like brand name stuff. So I don't know.
Okay, I would say then like you guys really hammered that home with me. And I mean, that's probably why I think what I do now, like to not be like people, not stuff, the old mantra.
People, not stuff. That's right. That was really the mantra of your childhood, wasn't it? And so do you think it's because you internalize the values that we had?
Yes, probably.
For anyone listening, don't get me wrong. You guys got a lot of presents for Christmas and not from us necessarily, because we didn't really have very much money when you were growing up. But like, yeah, you had a lot of grandparents. Like you guys have 5 sets of grandparents, which is pretty crazy, like 10 grandparents and then aunties and uncles. And,
big family.
I wouldn't say that you were spoiled, but there was definitely, you think you were spoiled?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't spoiled. More about having a bad attitude than anything else.
Yeah, I think spoiled is like when parents can't say no and they just give everything.
Right.
You may have had grandparents who couldn't say no and gave you everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when you look back to being a little kid, what was really meaningful for you about Christmas or your birthday or any of those like exciting childhood holidays?
That I couldn't tell you. What was really meaningful? Just the thing itself. I don't know. You're very conditioned to be excited for those things for when you're young. Santa and and presents. Well, okay. So what about now? Like, since you've already said like, you don't have to give me presents, but what do you like the holidays and what do you like about them? I don't want to say I dislike them, but I'm not very much on like, I don't like ever like decorate, and I play Christmas songs when I get paid to, and
you play them for free at our house.
Yeah, on your request, that's true. I don't know. I think I'm pretty agnostic. Like I also don't mind it. I mind it in November when people get excited about it, but when it's actually the season, it's cool. And same with my birthday. Like, I think it'd be cool to do something for my birthday, but it always ends up being pretty low key.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a positive or a negative. I think that's just varies from person to person.
Is there anything that you're like, oh, it's, Christmas is coming, I'm excited about X?
I mean, yeah, I guess it still feels nice, like the intentional family time and the new Lego. And that's
Sorry, spoiler, you're not getting any Lego this year. Okay, so family time, you like the family time?
Yeah, seeing extended family. I don't know if we're going to this year. Yeah, I don't know. I think Christmas is cool.
Do you remember making presents for your siblings when you were growing up?
I remember making Asa the piggy bank.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought for a while I could maybe remember more, but I don't know.
Do you remember the sock monkeys that you made them?
Oh, vaguely.
Those were a lot of work.
Yeah, forgot about that. I don't think they liked them, I think.
Yeah, no, we still have them.
Yeah.
So do you remember when you were little? This is like changing gears a little bit from holidays to just like consumerism in general. Do you remember when you came home from Montessori and said that you wanted some
I know what you're about to say.
company
yes,
shirts?
That. Yeah. Could I?
Yeah.
4. I remember seeing, like, it's kind of weird to remember before you could read, but I remember just seeing what words were, seeing them on shirts and being like that.
And why do you think
freaking sweet?
Do you remember why you wanted
some of those?
Do you remember why you wanted company shirts? And yes, cool. Like we thought you meant like shirts that said like Gap on them or something like that. But it turned out when dad took you shopping at a thrift store,
I just wanted shirts with pictures on them.
But when you went, do you remember when you went to shopping with dad, like at Value Village or whatever, and to get company shirts?
Yeah, I remember getting a Superman button up. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I don't remember any of the other ones.
I think you got shirts that said like T-Rex and, like just...
Well, I couldn't read. So
I know.
I didn't know what a company versus just a picture.
What do you think that did for you?
Made me cool. Have more friends. I'm joking.
No, you're very sarcastic.
No, I don't know. I think I remember being happy, like, to have a cool wardrobe. That's, if you want to talk consumer, I think I still like getting cool clothes. Like, I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Although I don't go shopping that much, but like, I don't know. I don't think that part about me really changed.
You tend to buy secondhand clothes though, right?
I do tend to do that.
And that's just like a style question?
Style? I don't know. I think that fateful shopping trip that you're talking about, it was like a Goodwill or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember going there as a child. And then I had like 1 or 2 years, you probably remember this, where like in like the beginning of high school where I wanted to get all my clothes from H&M. And then I just went back to Value Village after that.
Yeah. No, I remember that.
Rebellious years of going to the mall.
So another thing that parents worry about is that their kids aren't like appreciative or grateful for, everything that they have in their life. And I personally think, well, yeah, of course they're not. That's what I think too.
Little dummies. Is that what you think?
No, I don't think they're little dummies. I think they just don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah, for sure. That'll come with time, for sure.
Do you remember starting to feel appreciative and grateful for what you have?
Do I remember becoming conscious of it?
Yeah.
It always was something you guys talked about. It definitely slowly, very gradually became less abstract as I got more world experience.
Do you remember what we said? Because I don't totally remember what we said.
Just like, you are fortunate, I think, was the message. But anyways, I remember always like wanting, like, I never thought I'm not grateful, like, I think it's just like when your kids just don't understand much. That's what I remember from being a kid. So like, how could you expect them to understand something as nuanced as gratitude? Well, I guess it's not that nuanced, but like,
or privilege, or whatever.
Privilege, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, like, it just comes with time, or like, you still have to make an effort, I think, to show them that, because I definitely know older people who don't really get that, but as I'm sure we all do. If you don't, you're one of them.
So I think it would be fair to say that the parents who are concerned about their kids, wanting their kids to be appreciative of their privilege, wanting their kids to be, grateful for the presents that they get and not to be too, consumerist or materialistic, are probably the ones that...
You're probably already doing fine. Just
exactly. Yeah.
Talk to them about it. And within a decade, you'll have a little, and within a decade, they'll become the preachy ones and you'll get annoyed.
I think
They'll
that's
start
happened.
lecturing. They'll start lecturing you about capitalism, and they'll be like, "Gosh darn it, what have I done?"
I think that's happened to us a few times.
All I was trying to say, I wasn't trying to say don't get your kids presents. I think I've been pretty clear. I'm just like, I never minded when you guys would talk about privilege and stuff when I was a kid. Like even if I did mind it, that would probably be more reason to try and reinforce those points. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's like the golden rule of parenting podcasts is like, if you're concerned about this stuff, you're already probably doing pretty well. And if you don't think about it, then your kid is the one that needs help.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, in any case, those are not the people who are probably listening to this.
That's the parenting podcast paradox.
Okay, so let's just close by saying,
You better leave that in.
I will leave it in. Parenting podcast paradox, the peaceful parenting podcast paradox. You can add another P in there. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Lee, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Love you.
Happy holidays to all your listeners.
Thank you so much for listening today. And don't forget to sign up for my weekend reflection email newsletter list. That is a great way to stay intentional about your parenting. And I will treat your email address very preciously. So you can go to sararosensweet.com/newsletter to sign up for that. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. And also, as a giant favor to me and all the kids out there whose parents need to know about peaceful parenting, please share this podcast, screenshot it, share it with a couple of friends, to anyone you know who you think could use it or you think would enjoy it. I'd super appreciate it. And I know that we're moving the needle towards a more peaceful world, one family at a time. And one last thing, pretty please. It would be amazing if you could follow the show or subscribe, whatever it's called, where you listen to your podcast or where you get your podcasts. And also to leave a review and a rating if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found this conversation insightful and exactly what you needed in this moment. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Remember that I'm rooting for you. I see you out there showing up for your kids and doing the best you can. Sending hugs over the airwaves today. Hang in there. You've got this.